Hi everyone, and welcome back to Rolling Through Negotiations. This is episode 92, and we're recording this one in July 2025. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Matthew Karakalakis, and I'm the host of Rolling Through Negotiations. I'm a lawyer working in commercial law and dispute resolution. I'm also a mediator. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I know firsthand what it's like to navigate high-pressure negotiations, high-pressure deals, and it's what we explore here on this podcast. If this is your first time listening, I reckon you're going to find something and hopefully many things useful in this episode. If you're a returning listener, welcome back, high five, you legend, love having you here. So, who's our guest? Well, today's guest is amazing. Today's guest is brother boy Richard Hurst. He's a Gamilaroi man. He grew up in Sydney. He's done a ton of work, especially earlier on in his career in property, recruitment and sales. A sales guru, so to speak. But since then, he's worked in large organisations and he's really passionate about Indigenous empowerment. In this episode, we speak about sales. We speak about having impacts as Aboriginal people within organisations. We speak about why organisations benefit when they hire Aboriginal people and much more. So this is going to be a great episode. You're going to love this one. Without further ado, let's go, let's roll. Rolling Through Negotiations podcast, episode 92. Welcome to Rolling Through Negotiations, brother.
Thank you so much, Matthew.
Let's start right here, brother. Let's start with this concept, this notion, this craft that you have of sales, yeah? I'm being playful here, but I know you've had a fair bit of work where you've worked in sales, and sales techniques and negotiations are very related. How would you explain the skill set that's needed to be a master in sales?
Listening, rapport, connection, I would say, like if I just summed it up in little words, but really, I think the misconception of people is that salespeople, they just chew your ear off. Well, they do if they're a poor salesman or person. Say, it's a two-way. I guess it's like a dance. You're dancing with someone. Where you got to get to, you might have to guide someone towards the road to a sale. You might face objections. A funny movie I saw once was like, when does the salesperson's role, when does the role start? And someone puts their hand up and says 8 a.m. Saturday, boss. And they go, no, it starts when the person says no. So you're going to get, I think, resilience, bouncing back and overcoming objection, but also putting yourself in the other person's position. Maybe they know means they don't know enough. And then presenting solution, rather listening to find what's the needs analysis, like what's the objection? Am I selling myself? Am I selling, it could be a product or service, but what solution and how can I leverage the benefits and really be clear about what the benefits and also time. How do I get this person to agree with me that this is a solution that's going to best suit them in a timely manner, where it could be market conditions, or it could be, you're trying to hit a sales quota for before a month end or something. So there's a few different things, but I think one thing is also another thing is just to use empathy as well, because you've got to might not be talking to the key decision maker. You might be talking to somebody that needs to report, but arming them and making them feel good about the process. So arming them with the right information that they can easily relay, get some agreement. Oftentimes, I'll just say, I'll just pretend like it was your idea, and empowering them to help them make a good decision. And ultimately, a good salesperson believes in what they're selling. So if I had no faith in what I'm selling, I wouldn't be in that role, and I'd quit by 10 a.m. Don't sell yourself short. Don't give into compromising who you are as a person, your culture, your family, your history, your legacy, and your future generations. Why compromise that to make a quick buck? I don't understand. Just, it's just not. It's not me, and I don't think it leads to a long career in sales or any sort of venture. Ultimately, if you can't back it and think to yourself, if I'm selling to my family, would I be giving them the same advice as what I am to this particular client? And you want to be saying yes to both those things.
Yeah, because when you mention the word sales, a lot of people get this cringe, get this gut feeling of, oh, stay away from this sleazy sales shark. But like you're saying, brother, if what you're selling is a quality solution that really is going to help community, help somebody with a pain that they're experiencing, that sale can be a saviour. Maybe that's why they both begin with an S and an A, sales and saviour. But
absolutely,
I think your point's a good one. When you're selling something you truly believe in, you truly are then helping people, and the sales process becomes an influence, an education of delivering a solution. So I really appreciate the point you're saying there, brother. You're speaking about listening being such a powerful part of the sales process. How does listening best lead to influence? Because if we are completely listening, I wonder whether we can be influencing, or if there's a transition that takes place between the place of the listen and the place of the influence. How do you see that process and the way that it works between listening and influencing?
I think by listening, you're picking up on things that, like, people will maybe tell you things that will just give you the right equipment to tailor your message. And really, that's negotiating in a nutshell. I think it gives you, arms you with the tools to think and be considered in your response. And sometimes the best response is, look, I really can't help you, but I know other people that could, or another service that could. That just boosts your credibility because you're willing to let something go for the betterment of that person's buying experience or purchasing decision.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, brother, because as we were saying, sales and bringing that solution can only happen after you've listened to what the problems are. And if somebody was going to be so arrogant as to, hey, just push this down somebody's throat, how do they know if that product or service is even what they're looking for? And maybe this is where we come to with governments, when governments are trying to smash down our community's throats solutions without listening to the real problems of our communities. How can you apply these deadly sales techniques and strategies and principles that you've spoken about into bringing solutions for First Nations programs, particularly because you've done a lot of work as well, brother, in corporate and other kinds of Indigenous programs. So how do these sales techniques and strategies apply into First Nations issues?
Yeah, look, I think identifying a little bit like the key decision makers, the key drivers. What are people that I'm talking, in a corporate setting, you'd have management, C-suite decision makers that ultimately kind of dictate the flow, the priorities of an organization. How can I influence them by convincing them that a program that I'm managing contributes to some of their objectives and their goals and what vision, and hopefully they've got a bit of an astute, this is why you have to set time for culture and really those sorts of education piece, or having forums where First Nations people in particular, like Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people, and other people from different minority groups have a time to tell their story, and hopefully it connects with leadership, because if there's no reason as to why we should do something, then they're not going to be interested. Sometimes I think management is very focused on what key deliverables or the core business. And look, times are changing. I think people are times are changing, and also times have been very challenging in the last couple of years, particularly with the referendum and some discourse every year on a certain date and things like that, where you people that aren't on your side or your journey or your fence definitely get a little bit louder. And I think that having opportunities to share lived experience and creating those opportunities, or even not asking, just being able to ask a question in a forum and feel safe enough to ask maybe a question of leadership. I know a few mob that do it brilliantly, and really test the waters in terms of leadership, which is, when you're in the, I don't tend to do it, but I have done it before. But when I see it done from another one of the mob, it's like, I thought about that question. I was thinking what's your standpoint on that? Yeah, it's when the rubber hits the road, and initiatives, particularly with employment, which is something I've been involved in for a while. It's not numbers. It's building a community within an organisation that potentially doesn't have, in its core business, is it actually elevating, promoting, and really appreciative of their First Nations staff, things like that. Forums, building a community within an organisation is really, really, it's key to creating a sense of a family inside whatever organisation that might be, government, education, corporate. It's very important, I think, in terms of creating a culturally responsive workplace, and negotiating and identifying allies and champions. Having the one-on-one discussions. I think it's always good to have a coffee with some managers, talk about, this is what we do, this is how you can help, bringing people along to fight the good fight. And it's not even really a fight sometimes. Sometimes it's just hey, listen, how can we get involved? That's the sweet spot when people want to be aligned and join you on the journey. I think that's when real reconciliation in action can happen.
When it comes to working within organisations and developing the community that you're speaking about, I'm going to go out on a limb here and look at this from a completely different perspective. There's sometimes, how can I say this? So cultural safety has to be an issue that an organisation does well in to be able to succeed and build this community that you're speaking of. And cultural safety as a concept, I think, it's quite wide. Situations where the First Nations person might be calling out cultural safety, as an example, might be, what if this person's working within a First Nations organisation, has an Aboriginal board, Aboriginal CEO, and is incredibly aligned with First Nations values? In those instances, sometimes cultural safety can still be called out as being an issue when it's not. So how do we have authentic trust in organisations and truly have everybody properly held accountable on these issues of cultural safety when developing the community that you're speaking about?
That's an interesting question. It's important is that it's mob led, so it's led by mob for mob, and I'm asking people what they want to do. I'm not assuming that I want to do things that, like, I know what everyone wants to do. As people that want to do something, and we come up with ideas together. Look, as much as any place will say, hey, on a document, hey, we want to make a cultural safe workplace. Like, you can't make a culturally safe suburb in Melbourne or anywhere, because there's always difference of opinions. There's always people that are ready to be a keyboard warrior behind the scenes and things. You can be responsive. You can be, aware. Allyship is about calling out instances or being that person that you can tell that something's wrong with one of the mob, same as you can tell something might be wrong with another colleague or workmate that comes from any country. Pick a country in the whole world. You just need to be a human to understand that people have their off days, people have their times when they feel like their social battery's low or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think that if to flag that something's culturally unsafe as maybe a shield or a default, that's a tricky one. Haven't really an answer for that one, Matthew, but I can imagine that I can't, at the same time, we can't speak to what someone's feeling. If they're feeling that way, well, that's what they're feeling.
I'm definitely not an expert in this area. I feel like intention needs to come into play here as well. And I feel like if we go about connecting with the purest positive intentions and respect, then differences can be overcome and in fact embraced. So I think that's also an example why if you hear a black fella saying a black fella joke, for example, it's not racist when, like if a white fella said it, because how can the black fella's intention be improper? And I feel like if you heard a white fella who is really connected with black fellas and is really ingrained and holds awesome values aligned with black fellas and told a black fella joke, it probably would go down well. Because if we have the right intention as we connect and communicate, then it can be accepted and understood. And I feel like the intention piece probably comes both sides. If we look at it from the organisational perspective, I think that it comes from the side of the organisation, have the intention to truly embrace mob in the workplace and have the safety, not just numbers on ticker box type databases, but actual pure, true human connection with proper intention through that relationship with mob in the workplace. And also mob in that workplace also having the intention to truly connect and embrace an organisation if it is a proper, well-aligned, valued organisation, the intention to be safe, the intention to connect, the intention to feel that safety. And I feel like true safety might even be a two-way thing if it's going to happen really, really well. What do you think about that, brother?
Yeah, I agree. You know, you can tell a lot about an organisation the way they treat their entry-level people, the way they treat their customers that maybe not are spending a lot of money. Some of the best service or best employees shine when, you might not be. I think about one example, I think, which is an Aboriginal recruitment company, Shine People Solutions. I'll just plug them because this is a good story.
Plug to Shine. So they're a black business?
Yes.
Plug to Shine People Solutions. Awesome.
And you can see when, a little bit like that intention is that I had an offer on the table and, it was mine to accept or not, and I chose not to. And the response was truly just a conversation like, yep, totally understand, no pressure. It wasn't disappointment. It was support, if anything. Like, I'm glad you considered the role, it wasn't, it was a feeling that I said, well, the candidate experience in that case was just handled so brilliantly that I'll, if I'm in a position to look for someone and I have the ability to engage them, I will. And, similarly, there's a lot of people in the space and they're doing good things. There's definitely some amazing work getting done, but just as a candidate, I think that's important as well. Like, your first impressions of an organization, you walking in the door or reading the ad, goodness me. Or where do you find the ad? You think the real, like, sometimes it's just better the grapevine just to get the intel because, I don't know. And social media is a good one as well for finding people, but it's word of mouth. It's how you, I guess, have interacted in other workplaces or even as just in community or whatever it might be. And, you find good people and other orgs find good people too. When I say other org, I mean organizations, they'll do anything to hold on to good staff. Do your best, and if they're not here to support you doing the best, well, get out, because that's not a place you're going to thrive. You want to be, acknowledged as well, recognition of your efforts at a workplace, the hustle, the grind, the learning new skills. If you're training, and this is what the whole employee value proposition is. It's not just getting a job; it's thriving in that role, contributing, teaching your skills to other people who are on the similar journey, but also getting ahead. And if getting ahead, and that might mean different things to different people as well. You might just want to come home. You know what? People that have climbed a certain level in their careers might be, they dream of just switching their phone off at 5. But some people, they got that and they're happy. And some people, that doesn't do it for them as well. So don't assume that remuneration is everything or title. It is different for different people, but I think that goes for any, people just want to be recognized and feel like they're acknowledged for their hard work, acknowledged for their efforts, and achieving something that, they feel proud of. Being proud of your work is really key. You're never going to give your all to a job that, you're not, I guess, into the vision, what it is for you personally, but also organizational wide. So there's nothing wrong with I guess cutting ties with somewhere where you don't think that you're being valued. That's for sure.
And what else would you say if we've got an Aboriginal person listening right now and they want to hear directly from Richard Hurst on how to succeed in the workplace when they're working with a non-Aboriginal organisation? They want to be successful as an employee and work themselves up the ranks of that organisation. What else would you say to them to help them along their way?
Ask a lot of questions. Find out who mates are. I know that's sometimes not always clear, but get involved in other things, like say if there's, like a social club and things like that. It's very basic kind of things, but try and have, because it's not always possible, try and have a good communication with your manager or whoever's managing yourself at any point in the career. You want to always stock take where you are and where you want to go, and be audacious. I mean, look, I something that, I have to admit, I don't often always take my own advice in this situation, because maybe I'm a bit ashamed about doing that myself. But if you listening now, don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, in a couple of years I want to be doing this. What can we work towards to get me to that point? Because there are steps. You can reverse engineer a way to get to a certain place, and there's no shame in asking. If anything, that shows initiative. It shows that you are thinking about your future, and that future will involve your current employer. So kudos to the current employer that you're at, and you're asking these deadly questions. Is that you've got no shame. What are they going to say? You tell them they're dreaming? Like, that's not where we're living in. I mean, if someone gives you a response like that, that's not the manager you want to work for either. So think about you being, I guess, vocal in trying to paint your own vision and work your own story. There's no shame in that. I think the CEO of Nike, if I'm not wrong, he started as a sales associate and went all the way 22 years, 25 years. He's worked his way all the way to the top job. That's progression. That's somewhere we obviously done a lot of hard work, but then from entry to top dog, anything's possible in this day and age. It's up to you to make it if that's what you want to do, and you see yourself aligned in your values, company, sort of their 5 or so, what are they called? Pillars. If you can see yourself in there, go for it. And then don't forget that when you see whoever it might be start on a Monday, that you were there once, and help them.
Yeah, and the great point about reverse engineering. I mean, I think most people probably take out the dinner plate while the dinner's still cooking, so that they've got something to take the dinner out and place it onto, right? Without knowing where we want to be, how we're going to get there. You even think about it on a daily basis. When you wake up in the morning to go to work, if we get so bogged down into each little task, the getting out of bed task, the having that first glass of water task, cleaning the teeth task, we can get bogged down in those tasks and even sidetracked as we go. But if we wake up in the morning springing out of bed and seeing ourselves already at our desk, all the little pieces that gets us there are going to take care of themselves. And I think that's what you're speaking about as well, brother, which is if we know with clarity where we want to be, whether it's the CEO of Nike, whether it be whatever it is, wherever you want to be, if you can see yourself in that position and then you make your decisions and you do your actions consciously coming from that place, you're way more likely to get there than if you get stuck in the minutiae of where you are now. So that forward thinking, that reverse engineering, I think is an amazing, powerful principle you've just shared. What about for non-Aboriginal businesses? What about for non-Aboriginal businesses, government organisations, the large corporates? Why should they have an Aboriginal workforce within their organisation?
Honestly, hand on my heart, I believe we've got some of the best talent in the whole world.
Mm.
And that's why we no.
Hang on, brother. So
Yeah.
you're saying black excellence is real?
Oh yeah, 100. I I just am always inspired by someone or I hear about or I hear speaking on, whatever it might be, some little snippet on YouTube or some socials, and I'm like, far out, look at this. This is amazing. And just, it's young and old people. There's no, um, you know, there's no age. There's just a journey, and we're all on it in a way to be a better version of ourselves. And better means different. It doesn't mean you have to be assimilated. Nothing like that. You be yourself. Be proud of who you are. That's what we bring to the workforce. We're unashamedly proud black people that have so much to offer. But if you don't respectfully engage, like, we're not going to give you our best because we save that for family and for community. Just give us a seat at the table, and we'll show you what we got. And if there is some person thinking, far out, I'm not doing my best at my job, I'm feeling overwhelmed and immersed and stuff. Remember, it's only for this could be only just for a season. I'm the different person than I was 3 years ago. That was a different person than I was 5 years ago. And it's not to say better or worse or doing other we all go through highs and lows, and that's just part of being human. And I think that's really important is just have just remember that you're not alone, whether it be within a workplace or out. There are support networks for you to have a yarn to, and that goes for anyone. Like there's particularly after COVID took a mental health kick to to everyone really in a way, or some people thrived off of being because that suits more their personality. They want to be like they like to be solitude. That's their choice, and that was good. But for other people that thrive off seeing people or unable to see loved ones, it was a dark time. But now we know the flow-on effects. This is a bit of the hangover. There's definitely a lot more support, whether it be within a workplace or through health services and things like that. Yeah, I think that workplaces can learn a lot from us in terms of innovation, just backing yourself, knowing that it hasn't always been rosy. I mean, back, if I'm talking 20 years ago, it's, hey, entry level. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll just be doing sales. I'll be doing mainstream sales. Yeah, cool. Nah. um, but yeah, investing in yourself, learning new skills. Yeah, you can learn it at any age. It's funny. My dad actually was the Indigenous liaison officer at the CES, the Commonwealth Employment Service, back in the 90s. It's funny that we've sort of crossed paths, but even he's doing some stuff for school for seniors, like people learning computer literacies and music and things like that. Like, these are people that they're getting on, they're still learning. That's what fills his cup, which is great. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm working now on a Indigenous energy procurement, which is it's an Aboriginal business that finds energy contracts, energy efficiency, things like that for small to large businesses. So I'm always on the phones talking to people that maybe don't have time to talk to me. I don't let it get me down, but just plugging away. We're really providing a good solution. Whereas ownership is, majority Aboriginal, I'm the one fella that's on the ground here on the phones in Teams meetings, and it's a bit different because it really is not so much face to face, which is what I'm used to. It can be a little bit, it's not my preferred method of communication, but it's just what I want to achieve here is that I managed to get a few key accounts, and then I can hire more Aboriginal people. I don't want to be. I'm not going to be here by myself. Like in a wider business, I want to be kind of just as big a fish one day.
Yeah, and I also love the way you're saying sales as the vehicle for leading to the employment pathways. Because when you look at business and when you look at working in an organisation, you need to be able to sell yourself or sell your business to create the opportunities that you're looking for. And in a lot of ways, all this really does begin with the sale. And so the skill set you can learn from becoming a salesperson is what can really propel you particularly when what you're providing and offering is a real value-based solution. The work you do is amazing, brother. I love the way that you have been able to share so openly and candidly with us today, and you've shared so many amazing insights into sales, into Aboriginal employment pathways, ways of organisations and Aboriginal people being able to work together. And I love the way you spoke about Aboriginal talent, because that is so real. Keep up all your amazing work, brother. And I'm really excited to see, where you go and how you progress in the journey and how you build these opportunities for mob within your team. Is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners as we wrap this one up?
Look, I just want to say thanks, Matthew, for creating the platform. I know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is such a disciplined sport. As one of my mates, he's opened a studio, and he's in it for the long haul, good and bad. I just really admire the work you do, the guests that you've had on from all different walks of life. If anyone wants to connect, reach out. If you want to have a yarn, if there's any advice I can or anything that I can help you with, feel free. Doors open always, and just really appreciate sharing a few of my life experience with you guys, and thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome, brother. Remember, guys, if you've liked this episode, press that subscribe button. Share this episode with your friends so we can keep on bringing more great episodes just like this one. Us.